That's amazing. Amazing. Christmas is such a crazy time of year. There's so many people, I know, they're happy or are excited, waiting for Christmas and to be with family. And then sometimes it can be such a difficult time of year for people who have gone through loss and grieving. And we always want to be sensitive to that, because just because this time of year is good for one of us, it can be very challenging. It could be the first Christmas without someone. And this morning we're just going to do a quick review about Advent. And then we're going to wrap up with love, and then we're going to have some time to worship together. The first week we talked about hope. Hope is more than just an optimistic outlook for the future. I mean, that's part of it, that we have the hope of Advent, the second Advent, that Christ is coming again. And it's this optimistic look, but it's more than that. Hope comes from having faith in a never-changing God. No matter what life throws at us, we can have faith in a God that has never let us down. I have hope for tomorrow. I have hope for the future because I serve a God who I've walked with yesterday. And there's tons of times in my life that I've thought that, man, God really let me down. But when like Joanne alluded to, but when I got back and looked back, I realized that God was there the whole time. If we're going to be people of hope, we need to do three things. Number one, fix our eyes on Jesus. Anchor yourself to Jesus. Fix your eyes on him. Number two is be very quick to recall the faithfulness of God. I can pretty much guarantee you that every single Christmas, from this Christmas on, the Cormiers will remember. Remember the faithfulness of God. Look back and reflect and remember, God, when I was in a dark place, you were with me. Number three, be careful what or who you anchor yourself to. We need to anchor ourselves to the hope that we have in Jesus. Then we talked about joy. And it's really important to understand the difference between happiness and joy. They are not the same. Happiness is dependent on outside circumstances. Joy is a fruit of the Spirit that God works out in us. You can be joyful and still have a bad day. But so often we let a hard moment in our day ruin our whole day because it's these outward circumstances. Three things to remember: that joy is a gift from God. God works that out in us. True joy confronts our emotions. Now, I know this is really challenging. We've mentioned it every week. But true joy confronts our emotions. How many know that our emotions can change quickly in the run of a day? Because it's from outside circumstances. But true joy confronts our emotions. And number three, keep fighting, because joy comes in the morning. That there's going to be dark times, but keep fighting, because God is faithful and joy comes in the morning. There's a quote that I've been reading every week because I think it's amazing. Trying to be happy by accumulating possessions is like trying to satisfy hunger by taping sandwiches all over your body. Joy isn't about just having stuff. Something or stuff can make you happy for a moment. But joy is more than that. Then we talked last week about peace, about shalom, and the idea of wholeness and completeness. We lose peace, P-E-A-C-E, when we have a missing piece, P-I-E-C-E. That real peace is about wholeness, is about completeness. That's what it means, shalom. And we were reminded that peace is about the presence of God, number one. More than just on Sundays, more than just hearing an amazing story or incredible music. It's about having the presence of God with us every single day. And that's what he wants. Peace is about the presence of God. Number 2, we need to be messengers of peace, not of chaos. We have to ask ourselves the honest question, are we a messenger of peace? If you're not, what do we need to change to become that? When your children have a situation that's chaotic, do you add to the chaos or do you take away from the chaos? Are you the bringer of peace? Are you the bringer of wholeness? If your spouse comes home on a day where work was terrible and they come home and they're frustrated, do you add to the chaos? Yeah, your boss is a loser. Or do you bring peace? Do you bring wholeness? Shalom. We need to be messengers of peace, not chaos. Number 3, peace is about wholeness. What are you missing today? Whatever you're missing, whatever that missing piece, P-I-E-C-E is, he wants to restore that to you so that you can be at peace, P-E-A-C-E. Only God can bring that. No relationship, except we look for that in relationships. No object, no addiction. Peace. It's about his presence. It's about being people of peace. And about understanding that wholeness is what peace is all about. Today we're going to talk about the 4th candle, talking about love. Now, love is a really complicated word because we use it in all different situations. I'll say, I love my wife. And we understand that. But then we use the word love in lots of different areas. So we'll say, I love hamburgers. Well, if loving hamburgers and loving my wife is the same thing, we have a problem. Or so to say, I love sushi, which I actually think is a lie. I don't think anybody likes sushi. I think it's just a fad and people just trying to be cool. Okay, I just want to get that out there. But and we use the word interchangeably in different ways. I love my job. I love the people I work with. But in the Bible, we need to understand that there's different words that are used in the original language are translated love into English. And it's important to know, in the context of some stories in the Bible, what that looks like. The first one is agape, or agapeo. It's a special word presenting this divine love of God towards his Son, human beings in general, and believers. Agape. It's also used, this outward focused love of God that God expects believers to have for one another. Agape. That's why I can say, I love Eileen. It's this outward. It's this character, it's a word that is used often to describe Christians. They are people of love. This Christmas season, something interesting happened. I got 2 phone calls this Christmas, both from people that I didn't know. One was a Facebook message and one was a phone call. The first Facebook message said, listen, I don't go to your church, but I see that everything that you and your church do for the community. And so I see you're doing a gingerbread building house for families. I don't have any kids, but I would like to buy some gingerbread houses and donate them so that people who can't afford to go can go. Got another phone call from a lady. She said, I'd like to buy some kids some Christmas gifts this Christmas, but I don't know anybody else who is showing the love that Grace Church is showing. So if I buy gifts and bring them to you, will Youthquake and Mighty Kids and Grace Church, will you make sure? It's this love that Christians are known by. Agape. It's not an impulse or feeling. It doesn't always run with our natural desires. Sometimes I'll say to Penny, "Do you love me?" And she'll say, "Yeah, I love you, but I don't really like you right now." It doesn't line up, this love doesn't line up with how we feel. We love despite how we feel. It doesn't seem natural. Human marriage is modeled after this divine relationship between Christ and the church. It says that husbands are told to love their wives. And this kind of love is supposed to be outgoing and selfless, like Christ's love for the church in Ephesians 5:25. This type of love is best expressed in Jesus, in Jesus in the statement in John 15:13. Greater love, greater agape, than no one than this, to lay down his life for a friend. That there's no greater love that someone would lay down their life for a friend. That love is agape love. Jesus himself was agape love. Through his life, he just continued to give of himself, his time, his energy, his serve others, and to ultimately offering his life as a sacrifice. Agape. This is the truth. This is the kind of love that God wants each of us to show in our life. Love that will love no matter what, especially in our marriages. The second type of love is a verb. It's phileo. To have affection or feeling. It's the type of impulse love. It's natural, human type of love and affection that we have for a friend. It's often defined as brotherly love. That's why I can say to a friend of mine, "You know what, I love you." I don't really agape you. But you know what, we're friends. I love you. Maybe even hamburgers. The problem with this type of love is it can often break down when times get tough. Have you ever seen people that have had friendships that they haven't spoken in a long time? Because they had this phileo love. And sometimes it breaks down. But agape love that God intended should never break down. It's relentless after you and after me. In John 21:15-16, Jesus asked Peter, "Do you love me?" And it's if you go home and read it, we don't have time, but if you go home and read it, it's like, "Peter, do you love me?" And Peter says, "Yeah, I love you." Jesus said, "Do you love me?" "Yeah, I love you." He says, "Do you love," it starts to get annoying. But really what's happening here is Jesus saying, "Peter, do you agape me?" And he says, "Yeah, I phileo you." Do you agape me? No, He has this, I have this normal type of friendship love. But Christ was calling him to something more. Later, after receiving the Holy Spirit, Peter would be able to genuinely demonstrate agape, true godly love. Number 3 type of love is eros. It's a noun, refers to sexual, erotic love or desire. It isn't focused on oneself or one's feelings. True love isn't focused on oneself or one's feelings. But real love is focused outward. But eros, it looks like it's focused on other people, but it's really self-serving. And this type of love burns out. Love looks like it's focused on someone else, but it's really focused on us. most beautiful passages in Scripture is found in 1 Corinthians 13, 4-8. It says, love is patient, does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud, it is not rude, it is not self-seeking, it is not easily angered, it keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, and always perseveres. Love never fails. The problem we have is when we get these ideas of love messed up in our life. In this passage in 1 Corinthians, it's talking about agape love for each other. We read it at weddings all the time. Love is patient, love is kind. But really, this letter was written to the church. And he's saying, this is how I want you to love each other. I mean, it's not bad that we read it at weddings. But this was written to the church. This is how I want you to love each other. Husband and wife, agape. And if you move from agape love, this relentless, persevering love centered around God, if you move from that into phileo or brotherly love, then you can feel like a married couple that are just roommates. And that is not a good feeling. There's been few times in our marriage where Penny said, Troy, something's wrong. We're just existing. And if we stay in that realm, phileo relationships, they come and they go. Roommates sometimes part ways. Friendship, love, phileo. If friendship moves to eros, this erotic love, it can happen between one person or another. One person, they can be like, yeah, we're friends, and one has this feelings for the other. That's why I really believe it's really dangerous for a guy and a girl to be best friends. Because of the 100 times I've seen this happen, it always comes out that one of them had a burning desire for the other. And relationships can get messed up when it moves from brotherly love to this erotic love. The thing that we need to understand when we think about love is that there's room for all three in our lives. There's a place for brotherly love. There's a place for eros, marriage. But we need to be people who make a decision to live in agape love with each other. It's so interesting. I wouldn't recommend this, but some people I hear watch The Bachelor or The Bachelorette. And I'm not denying or admitting that I've ever watched it before. I'm just saying that some people watch it. And one thing that I always get a kick out of it is some point near the end, so I've been told, near the end, there's like a guy left and 4 or 5 girls, or a girl left and 4 or 5 guys. And there's always one couple that has this like real magnetic sexual vibe. And I have some friends, I won't name who they are, but they always are like, they need to pick that person because they have this chemistry. And sometimes they do. But how many know that living in this constant state is not going to last? Like I said it last week, Penny's walked through a lot of doors. I mean, she's seen me at my worst. But there's a place for everything. There's a place for brotherly or sisterly love. There's a place for this eros love. But we need to live in agape with each other and with our spouse. A love towards people and each other. A love that's not based on feelings. People ask me all the time, Troy, how do you do what you do? And I'm not saying this because I think that I'm amazing, because certainly I don't. But I say, Troy, how do you do what you do? How do you help the same people over and over and them turn their back on you over and over? Because love really isn't based on feelings. If the love of God is really working through you, then you have an agape love. See, it doesn't run on our natural desires. It's not about what someone can offer you or what you will get from them, but as Christ loved us. If we would just for a moment, and don't spend too much time because it would be depressing, but think about all the times that you have disappointed God, that I have disappointed God, that I knew what to do but I didn't do it, that I knew what was right and I still did what was wrong, that I knew what not to say but I still said it, that I knew what was sin but I still lived in it, that I knew what not to do but I did it. And he never, ever stopped loving me. See, the reason that I can be and love people like I believe God has called me to do is because God has been relentless in his love with me. I have turned my back on him more times than I could ever count. And he has pursued me and called me and chased me. His love is relentless. You look at the story of the prodigal son found in Luke 15. The boy asks for his inheritance. Basically what he's saying is, you're not dead yet, Dad, but I wish you were. So can I have my money? And his dad gives it to him. He goes out and he squanders it on phileo love and eros, on friends and women. And guess what? They didn't last. He finds himself in a pig pen eating pig's food. He said, my dad's servants do better than this. So he goes home almost like he's expecting his dad not to love him, but to just let him be his servant. His dad sees him in a distance, and he runs to him. If you're a parent and you see your kid, if you drive by the school, there could be 200 kids in the yard, and you can spot your kid from 100 feet away because they're yours. You know how they walk, you know how they move. And he starts to walk down the laneway, and the dad sees him. And he doesn't sit there and say, well, I hope he learned his lesson. I'm going to sit here and watch and see. He sees his son and the unrelenting love of the Father. I could see him jump from his porch and run down the laneway. Why? Because agape love is patient. It is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It's not rude. It's not self-seeking. It's not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrong. I say this sometimes to Penny, and Penny say, how come you don't remember that? And I'll say, dear, there's no use of both of us remembering all the bad things I've done. You got it covered. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices in truth. Love always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Love never fails. See, we often will struggle with the idea of love because we use the term very loosely. We We love our spouse. We love hamburgers. We love the Montreal Canadiens. But let me tell you about a God whose love is so scandalous. An agape love that is pursuing and forgiving. A love that walks in when everybody else walks out. A love that leaves the 99 and goes after the one. A love that gives when all we do is take. A love that gives his only son when he knew that we would turn our backs on him. A love that through our mess, his only desire is to make a message out of our mess. Through all of our struggles, there's an agape love of the Heavenly Father that never gives up, that is relentless. And I've said it earlier in the series, but I'll say it again. There will be people in this room that you have done everything because you don't believe you deserve it. You don't believe you're good enough. You don't believe that you're talented enough. And you've done everything to push away the love of God because you believe you don't deserve it, because your family has told you didn't deserve it, or you believe you don't deserve it. But you need to understand that God is not going to stop pursuing you. As I was sitting last night and I was just going over my thoughts for today, I said, I wish if I could just have one thought that could really, or one thing at the end of this message that could really tie things together. It's a story in the Bible. We're at Christmas. Jesus is born. But the truth is, he's born to live, to die. There's a story in the Bible of Jesus as he's hanging on the cross, and before he's hanging on the cross, and they're going to persecute him, they're going to kill him, and they give the people the choice: do you want Jesus or do you want Barabbas? And Barabbas was a criminal. He was a thug. He was a person who deserved the punishment. And the people chose Barabbas. And so I want to, just with that thought in your mind, that Jesus died because he loved me so much, even though I'm the one who deserved to die. Because the truth is, if I'm honest, I'm Barabbas. You're Barabbas. So I want us, before we just close with a couple of songs, I want us just to watch this video.